The Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen's Louisiana High School Football Playoff Prediction Show is presented by Medine's Collision Center. Take control, choose Medine's. Gros Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Treads and Care Tire Company, the tires you need, the service you want. And Harvey Autos, the name you have trusted for years.
Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host, Jace LeJeune. For today, again, for the third straight week in a row, we've done this video podcast. First two have been very successful. We want to thank everybody that's been watching, all the fans, players, coaches, you name it. We want to thank all of y'all for your support as well. And we're actually going to put this one on Facebook, too. I know the first two shows, we actually had it on YouTube, and we had it on Podbean, too, but we're going to actually debut this one on Facebook this week too, so we're pretty excited about that. And Lee has been a successful two first shows, and we're looking for a third one. We're going to talk about the high school football playoffs, and it's a really good sign if you're practicing on Thanksgiving. I know players would want to give everything to practice, had that opportunity to practice on Thanksgiving, not just stay at home all week and eat on turkey and just stuff yourself too much. So, but yeah, this week is going to be a very important week. We reach quarterfinal, semifinal week. Quarterfinals on the public side of the brackets, semifinals on the private side of the brackets. It's going to be exciting. One, a lot of the matchups that we've been salivating over, we're going to get those matchups because the more and more we go into it, it's the matchups that we really want to see, and it starts this week.
Yeah, I just first of all want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving because by the time you watch it might be Thanksgiving. Get plenty of turkey and dressing and all that stuff, gobble, gobble. But I'm glad that we can do this show. I'm glad that we're doing our third one, Jace, and it's been a lot of fun, and there's a lot to talk about and a lot of kids to talk about. And again, if we don't get your kid's name out, I mean, we're trying to get as many out as we can, but, probably might be in the magazine. I don't want to sound like a promotional, but truly there's a lot, probably more in the magazine we're going to mention. But with this show would be 10 hours if we mentioned the whole team of every team that played. But, heck, just enjoy us talking about your school, and talk about what your team might could do or who can win. And if we don't pick your team, don't take it personal. We're not personal. We got to pick somebody. Or because they would ask us, who are you picking?
Yeah, right.
So the same person
it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, you don't win for, but hey, it's all in fun.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's what it's all about, just talking about the playoffs and really talking about these kids. And I mean, high school football is the purest form of football, so that's why we're so excited about it. And see these kids, they've worked hard all the way from the spring all the way to now for this point. So the kids worked hard, the coaches worked hard, and they deserve for being mentioned for getting this far.
And again, the seniors, I mean, they've been playing since they were 7 years old. Mm-hmm. So some of them, it's going to be their last game ever.
Yep, right.
Some are going to play college football. Only 1% is going to play in the NFL. Maybe 3% will play college ball. So
right.
This is an emotional time, and the same parent or coach that's watching going, yeah, easy for you to say it's for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's an emotional time for families, not just Thanksgiving, but that fear that it's going to be the last game.
Yep. I mean, you play until you play for the next game. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you play until
worry about it after.
Right.
And then it'll hit you and there's a lot of kids that are going to end up being, business owners or working for companies or going to college just to be a student. And they can always say, hey, man, I remember when I played in the
senior year semifinal game.
And I remember when I played against Destrehan or Zachary or Washita Christian or whoever.
Yep.
That's memories you take, for your whole life.
Absolutely. And some of them are going to be talking about those memories more and more, especially to go farther into the state championship.
Look, man, let's go into 1A. I know you want to.
Let's get right to it.
Let's go right to it.
Now, so here are your quarterfinal matchups. The first one, Number 1 Logansport, they just came off a 50-0 victory over Arcadia, number 16 seed. This is their first playoff game since they had a bye in the first round. They'll get to play number 9 Bazille, who is coming off a 26-14 victory over Delta Charter. Logansport, they want to go back to the Class 1A state championship game. It's played a really tough schedule, one of the toughest schedules in the state, but they're going to have to go through a very battle-tested Bazille, who actually played Grand Lake this year, only held them to a one-score game. So Bazille is not going to be intimidated by Logansport, considering they played Grand Lake earlier this year. Logansport, Bazille in the quarterfinals. Lee, give me your thoughts on that matchup.
Bazille is one of those small towns, Jace, outside of Lafayette that's always competitive. And the last 10 years, they've been really good. The last 2 or 3 years, they believe. And I really believe that Chase Freeman, a receiver, and Joshua Ortiz has got to have big games. We mentioned those guys last week. Logansport, on the other hand, is built like a 4A team. They're big in the trenches. They're 290 pounds, a couple of their linemen on both O and D line. They've got a 6'4 receiver in Jacob Contario. And I want to mention a couple other guys. I'm going to tell you about the sleeper in this whole deal. There's a fullback who's really a D lineman. They moved to fullback about 3 weeks ago. His name is Marion Yarborough, 5'10", 270. That is a heck of a blocking back for your running game in 1A ball. And so Bazille, that's going to be a tough matchup for them to stop the run game of a very good Logansport. They have a good quarterback. They have a good receiver. And they got a big O-line. So I'm picking Logansport, obviously to move on. But Bazille's going to give them a good game. I mean, this is a bunch of good kids, tough kids, small town. Look, they're going to close down the town that night.
Yes, and I have Logansport advancing too, but it should be a really good game. Bazille is not going to be intimidated. And if in case you're wondering, the game will be played at Bazille, so Logansport actually will have to go on the road for that one. The next quarterfinal matchup on the top side of the Class 1A bracket, number 12 West St. John, I guess seeding-wise, upset Slaughter Charter 18-6, but we know the talent West St. John always has and what they're capable of. They advance to the next round. And they're going to need all of that talent because they got to play a number 4 Oak Grove football team who defeated East Beauregard in the previous round, 41-14. Oak Grove, we talked to Coach Gregory a couple weeks ago on our podcast, and they're gunning for their third straight Class 1A state championship, which is pretty incredible because before last year, they didn't even win back-to-back. Consider all the great championship teams they had before in the past. So trying to go for historic three-peat before they move up to 2A again. Number 4, Oak Grove. Number 12, West St. John. We've seen this matchup a lot in the playoffs over the years. Does West St. John have a chance of pulling off the upset, or will Oak Grove advance to the semifinals?
Well, Jace, I think the key to this game is West St. John's got a very underrated defense. And one of the best defenses in 1A. Their D-line and their linebacking core is unreal on size. They got Talon Pierre, who's 250, 6'2". Khalip Edwards is committed to ULL. See if he stays there if Coach Napier leaves.
Sure.
6'1", 230, can run. Jason August, 6 foot, 250. I mean, these are big guys for D1. Joshua Ellis is 230, 6 foot. And then Devin Hall's a strong safety for them that's about 180 and will knock your helmet off every play. But Oak Grove's offense is phenomenally getting better, and Cam Franklin is committed to Oklahoma State, a junior.
Right.
Their quarterback, Bradley, is incredible as a freshman. They have a lot of good players on defense. I just think Oak Grove's they're just coming together late at the wrong time to play West St. John. But West St. John's defense, again, is probably going to be one of the best defenses they play all year.
Yes, it is. And
I'll take Oak Grove in a close game.
Yeah, sure. So for us advancing to the semis, could be a really good matchup between Oak Grove and Logansport, but let's see if the other two teams pull off an upset and make things interesting. Now let's go to the bottom side of Class 1A. That is going to be number 3 Grand Lake against number 6 Haynesville. Number 3 Grand Lake had himself a tough task last week against Oberlin. Was not easy. 13-7. A sluggish, I guess, a defensive battle. We talk about big Bryant Williams. Well, he had 2 tackles for a loss in the sack, and they just could not block him. They held Oberlin to 139 yards of total offense. Defense for Grand Lake forced 3 turnovers, including one that led to the game-winning score, 13-7. Not a lot of offense between both those teams, but Grand Lake's a really good football team. They found a way to win. And Haynesville, talking about them, they're coming off a 48-13 victory over Lincoln Prep. That's the second time they played Lincoln Prep earlier this season. They won 43-12, so similar type of fashion this time, 48-13. No problems for Haynesville, but they'll have to play Grand Lake. The game will be played at Grand Lake, number 3 versus number 6. Should be one of those games where both teams are trying to dominate the line of scrimmage, like control the time of possession. Which team do you think has the edge in doing that?
Well, Jace, Haynesville's not the old Haynesville. They're not deep and big, and they're not loaded with running backs. You know, Haynesville's never really been a team of 50 guys. It's always been about 30, but they've always had 30 phenomenal players. This year, it's the same 12, 13 kids at play. And I really think Grand Lake's in the same boat. They're both similar. They don't really have a ton of depth. Neither one of them's huge. Outside of Bryant Williams, they're not a huge team. I give the edge to Grand Lake. I think Grand Lake has a little more talent, and they're at home. And what a run by this program, man. I mean, they made the state championship game last year. They came out of nowhere after overcoming 2 hurricanes. They're back again with they're really not super loaded with players, but this game might come down to a field goal. I mean, these two teams are basically playing 12 to 15 kids each. But Grand Lake being at home, they believe now.
Right. I mean, you just talked about going to the state championship game, and this year they never been to a state championship game prior to last year. So the incredible 2-year run that Jeff Wainwright has done with this program has been absolutely phenomenal. One of the best coaching jobs around that he's done. And, yeah, they're trying to get back. Not only they're trying to get back, but they're trying to win. I mean, last year they fell short to Oak Grove, and based off what the seedings are, there's a good chance that might be the state championship game because that's opposite sides of the brackets.
But, Jace, if you were to talk to a Haynesville native, they're shocked that Haynesville's went this far.
Right, yeah.
Because they're rebuilding. They're not even actually reloading. So if you're from Haynesville, you're happy to even be at this point. A lot of people thought Haynesville wouldn't even get past the first round of the playoffs.
Right. And David Franklin's done a really good job.
Done a great job
this year.
I mean, because this is the least amount of talent I've seen in Haynesville in, I don't know, 30 years maybe longer than that. Maybe 50 because they've been winning for the last 50 years. But it just goes to show you what kind of coach he is.
Right.
And their staff and that community believes. And a couple of players to look for Haynesville. Emmanuel Jackson, Jace, has come on late, 6'1", 340, a big D tackle, plays O-line. They all play OD line. And then Keegan Goodwin is their defensive linebacker and also a running back tight end. Again, they're just – this game's going to – I would love to go to this game, actually. I won't be able to go, but, I mean, this is probably going to be one of those, like, 10-7 games or
sure.
17-14.
Yeah, because they know both teams want to keep the football as long as they can and control the tempo of the football game. And it's going to be hard for Haynesville to block a guy that's 6'8", 330 pounds right in the middle of that defense.
Big Barb transfer, and it's interesting to see where he'll end up in the end.
Yep, definitely. We'll keep track of that. But, let's talk about number 2 Homer and number 10 White Castle. These are two of the most athletic teams there is in 1A. Talking about the road to get here from the last game. White Castle, you got this one, Lee. You got this one right over LaSalle, 41-40, but it was a very close back and forth type of game. LaSalle actually had a chance to go for the win. They decided to go for the win, go for the 2-point conversion. It failed, and White Castle held on defensively in a high-scoring affair, 41-40. And Coach Brown said it wasn't for the teams they scheduled early on in the year, they probably wouldn't have defeated LaSalle to this point. And he's actually scheduled for championships, not necessarily wins at the beginning of the season. And then looking at the other side with Homer, they're coming off a 46-6 victory over Northwood Lena. Congratulations to Northwood Lena. They got their first ever playoff victory in their program's history, but their season comes to an end. Homer, with the number 2 seed, they are a high-flying offensive attack with a lot of skill weapons, but they're going to have to make the trip to White Castle on the road. So will Homer continue to fly, or will White Castle rise to the occasion too?
I picked White Castle to be here way back, and I told you I watched him on film, and I was like, wow, man, the skill talent looks like 5A talent, Jace, and these are some good-sized kids that can run. They're very good as a unit on defense. They've got a couple of really good D linemen that can play. I think that White Castle is going to continue on. I predicted this. I predicted Oak Grove, White Castle in the state title game in the beginning. I'm going to stay with my pick. I'm not going to change. I think Homer's done a great job. Richie Casey's a great coach. I think Homer, plays phenomenal ball against everybody, probably Calvary Baptist up there, who they give them a hard time, every year too. That's a great game every year. But, John Watts is might be a 5-year starter for Homer. He's 5'10", 240, linebacker, fullback, means everything to that team. You also got Devontae Camp and a couple other kids that have been there forever. I like this game. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think White Castle's just so athletic. They're probably the most athletic team that Homer's going to face, and that includes Calvary Baptist. White Castle's got 7, maybe 8 guys that can score touchdowns. 5 of those guys are seniors. Derek Tate, Akeem Young, the quarterback, Damian Scott, Jason Green, Jacob Green, at corner. But remember I was telling you about 2 weeks ago, in my 30 years of watching White Castle, this is the most talented White Castle team I've seen. And they made the Superdome a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they've had some great teams with Ronald Martin that went on to LSU.
Right. They had some really good teams in the 80s, too.
Yeah, this team is the most talented team I've seen athletically, and that's scary. And so that's why I picked them early on to go to the state championship game.
Guess what? I'm gonna disagree with you, Lee.
All right,
I want to go again. So Homer, I just like how the offensive attack. You talk about offensive attack. They're gonna, if it's a shootout, even though White Castle won the shootout last week, I think if it is a shootout, I really like Homer in this one. You talk about playing tough teams. I mean, Homer played some tough teams this year.
Yeah.
Actually, their only 3 losses came to North Caddo, Union Parish, and Calvary. And I think just seeing those teams, they can really match up well with White Castle. And my only concern is them going on the road and making it's a long trip from Homer to White Castle. Yeah. But I really like Homer in this one. I have to go with that because Homer was the team I picked to go in the state championship.
You got to keep your picks.
So I got to keep my pick. But I really like Homer. I like their offensive ability. They're one of the best offenses, especially in 1A. And I like that offense to travel on the road against White Castle.
That's going to be a 5.5-hour drive for Homer.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's probably the longest drive in the playoffs, Jace, for families and coaches.
Yep,
5.5 hours.
Yep, but I'm sure they're going to make the travel though.
Yeah.
They're a proud fan base, but that's 1A. Should be interesting to see who comes out. Would it be Oak Grove and Grand Lake a rematch from last year, or it could possibly be Oak Grove and White Castle? That was a rematch a couple of years ago. So we'll see what happens in 1A. Still a lot of football left, but that's your quarterfinal matchups in Class 1A. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about Class 2A and see how that bracket is faring out right now. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host, Jace LeJeune, representing my Southeastern Lions as they made the playoffs. When they made the FCS playoffs the other week, just want to congratulate them for making it. They have Florida A&M at home. Was surprised that they actually got to host a playoff game.
Florida A&M's in Tallahassee.
Yeah. They are. So let's see Cole Kelly and the offense gets going. The defense needs to step up a little bit. But if their offense shows up, it's going to be tough to slow that offense down.
What's good before we start 2A is that I would compare it as this, Jace. The Southland Conference is so tough that they're prepared as much as anybody to do well in the playoffs because of McNeese. Even though McNeese is down, Northwestern, even though they're down, those are tough teams. They would do better in weaker conferences in 1AA, and then you still have – all these other Nickel State would be better in a weaker conference. Southland's one of the top 3 conferences in 1AA in the country right now.
Right.
And so, hey, I told you right now, they would beat Florida A&M. So anything's possible after that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll take it one game at a time. That's my philosophy. But speaking of taking one game at a time, are these playoff teams? I know they're going to take everything one game at a time. I know who especially is number 1 Manny. They continue to roll. They defeat East Louisiana 51-22. The Chess Curtis train just keeps on rolling for Manny. They're trying to go back to the state championship as they won last year, so they're trying to repeat as state champions. They defeat East Louisiana 51-22. And how about this game? This was one of the best games of the week by far, with Rose Pond and Red River. It was a back and forth matchup. Red River with their quarterback Trey Smith, Rose Pond with their quarterback Ethan Fry. Ethan Fry, I mean, he's just one of those just great high school quarterbacks. He had 5 rushing touchdowns, including the game-winning 2-point conversion that got them the win. Ethan Fry just carried this offense on his back, 43-42. We know that he is a LSU baseball commit, but if he wants to, he has a future in football too.
He's a catcher.
Yeah, right.
And he's 6'4".
Yep.
230 pounds. Actually, he could be a D1 quarterback. Mm-hmm. But he's so advanced in baseball. He's like Papirski, remember that played in LSU baseball?
Right.
He's that tall catcher that's hard to find. Mm-hmm. Heck, we don't even know if he'll go to high school. I mean, college. He might go pro.
Right.
The MLB draft, he might be a first 3-4 round pick. But anyway, I think this game, Jace, is going to be a tough one for Manny. Mm-hmm. Not just because of Ethan Fry, but their offense is all senior laden. It's like one big brick wall of blockers. Cole Donahue, their tight end's about 220, 6'3". Braden Troll's a 220 fullback, 5'10", 5'11". Casey Tilley is another fullback that's 5'10", 220. I mean, they just got these battering rams. So Manny's facing like their cousin, like them, right? Because Manny, they're the battering ram, right? Mm-hmm. But Rose Pine, they bring the battering ram on offense, and this is going to be a slugfest in the trenches. And Rose Pine can actually hang with them.
Yeah, they can.
And then Gage Burden is a big, tall 6'3" receiver. I mean, look, it might be 45-44. It might be one of those games.
Right.
Because I think Rose Pine's going to game going, you know what? We can score.
Yeah.
And we can move the ball. And you got this big quarterback who can run about a 4.65 40.
Yeah, talking about big quarterbacks that can run, because you have Ethan Fry, big quarterback that can run, and Tackett Curtis. He's a big quarterback that can run.
225 too. Mm-hmm. And you throw in London Williams.
In the backfield, yep.
But, I mean, this is going to be a quick early game. So when you watch the scores on Friday night, it might be over at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
because there won't be any passes thrown, hardly. And if it is, it's probably going to be Rose Pine.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a nervous game for Jess Curtis and the Manny, town of Manny. But I take Manny to win it. They're my pick. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to be one of those games you gnaw off all your fingernails before it's over.
Yeah, I agree. And congratulations to Coach Cody too, because for a long time we knew that Rose Pond's really good in the regular season. Their mantra has been they've struggled in the playoffs, but they finally got over that hump, had advanced to the quarterfinals for the first time. So still, congratulations on a great season. Yeah. I think if there is an upset in this 2A bracket, that very well could be it. If Manny's not careful.
I mean, Rose Pine's been knocking on the door for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, slowly, like first round, second round, round, second round,
right.
Every year. And now they're at this point to where, hey, we got a game to go. And they're playing the big bad Manny, number 1, right? And, you know what Jess Curtis is going to be telling his team? We're going to strap it on and be ready to go, because those guys, they don't get caught up in stats. They don't get caught up in anything but 500 yards of offense and a cloud of dust every week.
Yeah, yep.
And, he builds those teams to just power you and just wear you out. But I don't think they can wear Rose Pine out. I really don't. Even though these guys go both sides of the ball, Manny might have more players.
Yep.
But the quality players Rose Pine has, they got 30 guys that can really go. That's really all you need.
Also, just want to say I got that one right. So I got the Rose Pine one right. So we're even on that one. In case you're keeping track of who got the better record so far, we're tied. But so I have Manny advancing because that's my state champion pick. I have to stick with them. But I think this is going to be the first time that Manny gets really battle tested this year in the playoffs. But to me, they're the Goliath of Class 2A, and I think they're going to continue to roll and move on to the next round.
And they're young. Scary for everybody else. They're very young.
Yes, very scary. Now, Lee, let's talk about the next matchup in the quarterfinals. Number 5, North Caddo. They defeated the Quincy. I actually got that one right. I know you picked the Quincy to pull off the upset. Fell just short, 58-28. North Caddo, they have themselves a really good offensive attack. Everybody knows about Marion Miller, the receiver. That's only a junior, by the way. He still has another year, and very talented. and then they'll have to play number 4 Avoyelles. So 2 different philosophies on what they want to do. Number 4 Avoyelles, they got past Winfield. Wasn't easy, you know. They won 30-21. They got their best shot from Winfield, but Avoyelles advances to the quarterfinal round. North Carolina, this is a high-flying offensive attack that likes to throw the football downfield. They got a lot of weapons. Meanwhile, Avoyelles, they got, you know, Tay Augustine, a 400-pound lineman. They got some bruising running backs.
6'8".
Yep, right. At 6'8" is Augustine. They want to keep the football as long as they can. You know, Coach Boone, he doesn't want to punt the football. He's going to onside kick it. He doesn't want his defense to touch the field. That's his philosophy. And Avoyelles, you know, what they want to do is about what style of a play is going to win. Is it North Carolina trying to make it an up-tempo, back-and-forth type of game? If that's the case, then North Carolina is going to win the football game. Or if Avoyelles is going to hang the football, you know, and keep the football, then Avoyelles has the edge in that one.
Well, it basically comes down to Avoyelles keeping the football away from North Caddo. North Caddo has more athletes. They have more talent, more players. North Caddo is pretty talented. They've got some size. But if it's one way or the other. If you don't stop Avoyelles' running game, you're not going to get the ball but maybe 4 times in the game. But if you do stop it, it's going to be a long night for Avoyelles. But no one has been able to stop Avoyelles' triple option, which doesn't involve throwing the ball. And it's a crazy offense. It's hard to stop because you have to key on 3 or 4 people within a 3-yard spot there, of pitching or a guy keeping the ball. It reminds me of the old Oklahoma days, Jace, when you had Jamel Holloway and Barry Switzer.
Barry Switzer days, right.
You had to be so sound. And back then, it was really hard to stop the option if you could run it really well. But Avoyelles, I don't know, man. I think it's going to be tough for either team. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I think it really is too. It's a really evenly matched game. For me, I have Avoyelles going to the next round because I really like them. Like late in November when the weather's cold, keeping that football and playing keep away pretty much from North Caddo. I like that style of offense. That style of play is more reliable in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with them playing North Caddo. The game is at North Caddo, but not really too long of a drive for Avoyelles. No. So I really like Avoyelles in this matchup to move on. I'm going with North Caddo. Okay. I think Amari and Miller will play some DB, and they've got some other great players that can come in. Zion King, their quarterback, could come in as a DB. Right. They have the players. They have the D-line, O-line to stop this triple option offense. If anybody can, they can. It will be close. I don't think they'll completely shut Avoyelles down, but I don't think they can guard Amari and Miller. I don't think they can contain Zion King in the pocket. He's about 6'1", 180. He's a very good quarterback that can run as well. But, hey, I'm going to go close game, North Caddo. Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game regardless. 2 evenly matched teams. So that's the top side, Class 2A. Let's go to the bottom side of 2A. General Trask, they are coming off a 40-20 victory over Welsh, number 3 versus number 19. General Trask, they've been undefeated in the regular season, and they made the semifinals last year, so they're trying to make another push, led by their head coach, Toriano Wells. And General Trask will get to play. Oh, boy. Number 6, Amy. They avoided upset against Kinder. We know Kinder's a very pesky team, but they defeated Kinder 35-20. Very talented team. You can probably even say probably the most talented team in this bracket with Amy. But General Trask, they face some very tough teams like Mangum and North Louisiana. They've been through the best of the best in North Louisiana, and they've won them all. So they're undefeated right now. But General Trask, they're on a mission with this team, with their quarterback Wydad Williams and their guys. But Amy, the talent that is there to pull off the upset. The game will be played at General Trask. Lee, who do you have advancing? These are 2 very talented teams in General Trask and Amy. Well, it depends on what Amy team shows up. Ameet's defense looks like a college team. Their defensive line looks like LSU. And Javar Gilmore is a DN at 6'4", 220. He can run for days. Stanley Williams goes 310 pounds, their nose guard. Ashton Wilson, get this, their linebacker, he's 240, 6'1". Who's playing Mike linebackers in high school at 240, 6'1"? And then you got Jamarion Dunones, who's a great corner. And Zaman Whaler, get this, he's 6'4", 290 on D-line. So can they
can they slow down Wyatt Williams from General Trask? I don't think they can, because I just think that General Trask is on a mission. It's like the Blues Brothers movie, right?
They're on
a mission from God. So
yep.
I think General Trask is like, look, we didn't get there last year. We're gonna knock the door down and get to the Dome somehow. And I just think they're that team. You know, have some new teams every year that get to the Dome.
Mm-hmm.
They're that team trying to get there for the first time. And Amite has more talent. I just think that they haven't put it together yet, Amite.
Yep.
Amite hasn't played the way they look yet. I mean, they look like a college team, but they just haven't put it together. And, you know, the bad news is, what if they put it together for Friday night? That's bad news for General Trask.
Yeah, very bad news.
Amite, if they decide to play on all cylinders, they can beat, like you said, they can beat anybody in this classification.
I agree with you, Lee. I think General Trask, it's just the stars align for them to really make this run, this trip, and they've proven it. And they've actually played really tough teams, a really tough schedule, so they won't be afraid of Amy. It's one of those things that they went and played all the teams they're supposed to be, and then really overcome any adversity. I'll be worried because of the talent Amy brought in, but they faced some of the best teams in North Louisiana. So, I mean, they've won those games, and they've been hailing through adversity. I like this experienced team, which got a lot of experience last year, and I think that they're on a mission to get back and somehow play Manny, who they lost in the semis last year.
Look, General Trask would beat anybody in the state. That's how they think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you want as a coach. I mean, Wyatt Williams, he can line up against your old high school Catholic High, and I think he'd put up 28 points.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that a lot of people are talking about. He is really good.
Just they believe, man, and I really mean that. I'm not just blowing smoke. This team and program, they think they can beat the Nevilles or anybody in the state, Edna Carr, anybody. But you know, when you have your program at that level and you think that way, man, what a great way to have for your coach, man, and your program to just everybody bought in.
And then the last matchup, so we both agree that General Trask will move on, but it should be a good one against Amy. Get your popcorn ready for that one. And then how about the last pair? Number 7, Jonesboro Hodge. Talk about a statement. They defeated Mangum 28-18. You got that one right. I got that one wrong. So, yeah, but I tell you what, I was really impressed with Jonesboro Hodge's defense, because anytime Mangum came in, averaging about 330 yards rushing a game, and they really stifled that rushing attack from Mangum.
I told you, in my 30 years, it's the best Jonesboro Hodge team I've seen play, and this is better than the team that Charles Scott, remember, that played at LSU, the running back?
Right.
This is the best team. But, you know, you can't get caught up in these rankings, obviously, because, you know, they're 7, and they're not a 7.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's crazy? If they end up playing General Trask, 2 North Louisiana teams that look the same.
Yep.
Jace, they look identical. Their receivers and quarterbacks are tall and athletic. Tydree Malone is an incredible athlete for Jonesboro Hodge. He's 6'4", about 190, and they've got some superior players. I watched them play Bunkie. I was super impressed. Bunkie had a good team, and they were actually just had their way with Bunkie during the season. So I can't wait to see if this will be a General Trask Jonesboro Hodge matchup to go to the Dome.
Right, but first, Jonesboro Hodge will have to, if there is a Cinderella team so far, it's Franklin.
Big
Franklin,
time.
the 15th seed. That was a huge upset against number 2, Laurelville. Both of us didn't expect it as well. And actually, it was an impressive last-minute effort because Franklin scored a touchdown late, got the 2-point conversion. Laurelville drove down the field. It looked like they were going to set themselves with a game-winning field goal. Kick was blocked, and that's how Franklin was able to win 16-14. Not a lot of people saw this one unless you were a Franklin fan, but congratulations to Franklin. What an upset that was. Can they pull it off again against Jonesboro Hodge? It looks like, to me, I have Jonesboro Hodge advancing to the next round, but talk about what Franklin did this past week and really the run that they were able to have to this point.
Well, Jace, the coach at Franklin needs to be the district coach of the year just on that win. I mean, incredible. They're rebuilding. They don't have a lot of depth. They lost a lot of players. They're led by their quarterback, though, who's a 3-year starter, Zylan Perry, who's he's run for over 1,000. He's passed for over 1,500 to 2,000. So you're talking about a guy that's got 3,000 yards, all-purpose yards on offense. He's going to be tough. He had a great game against Laurelville. And then they have a 2-way guy named Jermichael Gray. He's a 4-year starter. 5'10", 160, runs a 4.40. He's a receiver, corner. He does everything, punt returns. So these are the two guys that have really carried this young team that's basically comprised of about 15 guys that play, which is, again, kudos to Coach at Franklin and that program and one of the coaching jobs of the year.
Definitely, I would have to say that too. But I have Jonesboro Hodge advancing to the next round. But let's see if Franklin pulls it off again and continues their Cinderella run. So that is Class 2A. We'll see what teams move on and get past this week to the semifinals. One more note, Lee.
I want to mention this before we go. I think Jonesboro Hodge, I do know this, they're playing for a fallen teammate.
Yeah,
they lost one of their stud, who was really a D1 player that was going to be a senior, died this summer. Yeah, one of their starters, and his name is Javion Nicholas. He was a running back. He did everything for the team, and I know that really is a special part of this momentum and what they're trying to do to play the season for their fallen teammate.
Yep, and you can tell that he's watching over him right now on their run. He's definitely part of it. He'll probably be the 12th man out there. I give him an extra edge, so that definitely helps. But we're going to take a commercial break real quick. When we come back, we'll talk about Class 3A, and boy, we got there were some really entertaining games in 3A, and there's some entertaining games left to come. But you're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
If you need a paint job or repairs to your vehicle, go see Madine's Collision Center located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Kincaid Avenue. The number to call is 357-7983. That's 357-7983. Your Baton Rouge Accident Advisors.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host for today, Jace LeJeune, his producer, and also editor of Louisiana Football Magazine. And speaking of that, before we go to 3A, you're wondering, why do these guys know so much about high school football? Well, we have a Louisiana Football Magazine too. And if you go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, you can still order your copy. This is the South version of the magazine. We have two different versions. The North is the blue. The red is the South, and the cover is a little different. We have different players representing the cover. We have a special recruiting section too on North and South. But we talk about all the colleges. We talk about all the high schools, and there's still time left. The season's not over yet. If you are, for example, I'm going to talk about Sterlington and Madison Prep. If you're a Sterlington fan and want to know more about Madison Prep, we'll order your copy right now. You can get yourself an online version, the digital version, also a hardback version too. Still plenty of time to get your magazine copy today. We still have 3 more weeks left into the season, and you can use it as a guide in the dome too when the state championship games happen as well. And if you're a parent, your kids obviously going to be mentioned in the magazine in the write-up for your prospective team. But this is the Bible of Louisiana high school football. So go to Louisiana Football Magazine, lafootballmagazine.com to purchase your copy.
25 years.
Yep, 25 years.
I can't believe 25. I was in my apartment, Jace, and it was the summer of 96. And I was like, what am I going to do for a living, first of all? I was working at Tiger Rag magazine, and I was like, I want to go take the chance, take the leap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I left, and I remember that I told my boss that I was going to leave Tiger Rag to start a journey statewide to go to the schools. We needed a high school magazine and promote all the colleges. And I remember a lot of people looking at me like, have you lost your mind? Did you wake up and eat some bad Wheaties or something? I'm like, no, this is something I've always dreamed about. And thank God it's, 25 years later, here we are.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they're looking for number 26. We're trying to work on that, So
3A. So
let's talk about 3A coming up, Lee. I just talked about number 1 Sterlington. Talk about, man, like I'm willing to make the trip to Sterlington for this one. I mean, number 1 Sterlington against number 8 Madison Prep. Madison Prep is your defending Class 3A state champion. Sterlington, they won obviously a couple state championships in their program's history. They defeated Westlake. Westlake, congratulations on the great season for Coach Richardson, but they fall short. Their season ends to Sterlington 51-27, over 300 yards rushing in that game for Sterlington. It was actually a 21-20 ball game in first half, but Sterlington ran away in the second half. And then this was the game everybody was talking about on a Thursday. I got the playoffs started last week. Madison Prep defeated St. James 33-10. Not surprised about the outcome, but definitely surprised by the score. Zeon Chris, the UL commit, had 3 rushing touchdowns in that game, and then Madison Prep's defense stifled St. James' offense, limited Shaz Preston had a pretty good game, but limited him really going off, and they won by 23, 33-10. That was a statement win for Madison Prep, and that sets the stage for should be a classic between Sterlington and Madison Prep.
Now remember, Madison Prep beat St. Thomas More this year when Jamie Howard's son Walker was healthy, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
So, flat out beat them at St. Thomas More.
And outscored them.
Yeah. Was like a machine. Okay.
It was a quarterback show between Chris and Howard.
This is the team that won the state title last year, like you mentioned. We have an 8-1. This is really like 2 1s going at it. And look, Sterlington is one of these teams. They don't do anything fancy, but they're full of seniors. They believe, and they have that crazy offense where the running back's 9 yards behind the quarterback.
Yep.
Now, if Madison Prep stops the run game, oops, that's going to be tough. But they do have a receiver at Sterlington that looks like a lot of guys that play at all these top programs. His name is John Barr. He's 6'3", 190, and he needs to make some plays because, let's face it, with Quincy Wiggins on defense and Irvin Nicholson, Darian Johnson, Cameron Coleman, all these guys are going to play college ball on the front, on the defense for Madison Prep. They're going to stop this run. Now, will they stop it every time? But they're going to slow it down. That's something that Sterlington's not used to seeing. People manning up and being able to stop that run game because that's who they are. They don't throw the ball much, but they're going to have to throw it in this game to win the game, Jace. I don't think they're a throwing team. Madison Prep advances, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I have to stick with them because, like I said, it was my pick before we did the bracket at Sterlington. They have to go. Madison Prep will have to make the trip up to Sterlington too, so that does make a difference when you're talking about high school kids as well. And I think Sterlington, which is their fundamentals, running the football, staying ahead of the chains, not letting Zeon Chris touch the football, and also trying to, with that type of game plan, it really could take Quincy Wiggins out the football game too if they decide to block him right. It's going to be tough to do that, but I like Sterlington with their fundamentals. I think on all 3 phases, I think they're going to find a way to win this football game and win it through all 3 phases. And they've been really good on the offense. But yeah, I think they can get enough of a passing game going in order to advance and beat Madison Prep and not let Zeon Chris touch the football.
Well, it's tough to beat the state champion when the quarterback comes back like Chris. So, remember, they went to St. Thomas More and beat them at STM in Lafayette. This team, they're well-traveled. They won their state championship last year in Natchitoches, which was, away from Baton Rouge. It wasn't like going to New Orleans an hour away.
Sure.
Sterlington has a great team. They have a great senior group of players. Again, this boils down to stopping the run. If they don't, then I'm completely wrong. But if they do stop the run, then obviously it's going to be a different game at in Sterlington.
And that's what's going to come down to. But everybody, that could be the headliner of these quarterfinal matchups. Let's talk about another one with number 5, Church Point advancing. They've only given up listen to this. They've only given up 3 touchdowns all season long.
Well, here's the deal. Did you see the score of the game against Donaldsonville?
Yeah, 35-0.
Let me just tell people this. And I'm getting the chills telling you this because I'm a fan of Church Point, and I'm a fan of their head coach. They've tried to get to the Dome. He's been there for years.
Yeah, Coach Arsenault.
Yeah. Arsenault's come so close. So if there's anybody that deserves to go to state title game, it's Coach Arsenault at Church Point. Now, here's what I wanted to say. Donaldsonville's best team ever, and they beat them 35-0. I'll watch Church Point this spring play at St. Michael's in a scrimmage. I could tell they had some leadership. I did not know they were going to get this good again.
Mm-hmm.
They took all the guys they've lost, they put the new guys in, and by fall they were dominant, and that's coaching. They have 7 different running backs. They lost 2 running backs last year that were all state basically, and they replaced them with 7 guys that alternate, and their quarterback does a great job game managing the team. Andy Brasenio is a very unheralded running back for them, linebacker. It's a senior. But the D-line, Jace, Javen Gibson, Jamarian Citizen, who's a cousin of Citizen from Loyola.
Right.
Lake Charles
Prep. Yep.
Who's the running back committed to LSU.
Yep.
They're first cousins. That D-line of Church Point is incredible. The defense has really become great. I tell you what, I didn't see them right here at the beginning of the year because they lost a lot of guys on offense.
They made the semis last year.
But, man, you got to give the coaching award of the year to Coach Arsenault for rebuilding his whole offense from a team last year that was a game away from the state championship game.
Yeah, and if you think about it, look at the stats from the Donaldsonville game. They only gave up 22 total yards.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
Donaldsonville has 9 D1 players on their team. I mean, speed galore, okay?
Only 22 yards.
That, to me, again, I got chill bumps. Like, that is a game that you go, how did you do that? How did you shut out a team like that? That's incredible. Now, let's turn to
West Feliciana. So the Cinderella run West Feliciana Coach Hudson Fuller has made. They defeated number 4 Iowa 35-27. They upset first round Jules Sumner. That was a 38-0 shutout. Then they play Iowa's best team they probably ever had.
Yeah.
35-27. That's a still young team.
That's another shocker. But I watched West Feliciana this year against Parkview Baptist. And I watched their young quarterback, Joel Rogers, and he has really come on. I mean, he's a young guy. He's only a sophomore, and he's 6'1", about 180, and he can play. And as the season went on, Jace, he became a quarterback. And that's why they're so good right now. They've got LeMay at receiver, who's a D1 player. They've got some other guys. Daniel Willis is a 1AA receiver. Man, all of a sudden – they have this offense that's got a lot of studs on it because the quarterback, Joel Rogers, has taken that job and run with it, and this is going to be a great game. Now, you look at it on paper and you go, well, Donaldsonville had all the talent, right? West Feliciana, they're not as talented as Donaldsonville. So what's going to happen here? I don't know, man. I didn't expect either team to make it to this point, but you got to go with let's go with future and what's meant to be. I'm going Church Point.
Yeah, I am
because
too.
This is a team that's like we're tired of finishing as losing the semifinal games the last 2 years.
And that's a championship defense. I mean that is a championship defense, and I'm gonna have to go with Church Point. And look at this potentially, Lee. If you pick Madison Prep correctly, Church Point will have to play Madison Prep. That was a rematch at the semifinal. And Church Point, if there was a call that could have gone their way, Church Point could have won that football game last year.
It came down to the wire.
Yep. It came down to the wire.
I would love to see the game. I would love to see them get a chance to do what they didn't do. You know what? Madison Prep's won it all.
Yeah.
I'm always about, hey, let's get someone else, and your parents go, oh, don't do that. But no, I mean, let's get a team. And this, Coach Arsenault's close to retirement.
Yep.
I'd like to see him get one before he goes out and have a chance to play for one. But I'm going to tell you, Jamar Citizen and that D-line's a real deal. And that offense, again, who replaces their whole offense, Jace, from the year before and not miss a beat?
Yeah, that's incredible, to say the least. But that's the top side of the Class 3A bracket. Let's move to the bottom side of Class 3A. Number 3, St. Morinville plays number 6, Lutcher. St. Morinville coming off a 62-28 victory over Iota. St. Morinville, out of the 9 touchdowns they scored, 8 were rushing touchdowns. Sophomore running back Stephen Blanco had 3 rushing touchdowns, while Tanner Harrison had 2 more rushing touchdowns. They win big against Iota, 62-28. And then Lutcher defeated Bogalusa, 54-26. So it was really a bounce-back win for Lutcher. They struggled in that first round. They got past Carroll, but this was a statement win against Bogalusa, having a great season by Silo Crutchfield. And how about the running back for Lutcher Lee, for Roy Force? Ran for 6 touchdowns in that game to advance and beat Bogalusa. So that sets up St. Morinville, number 3, versus number 6, Lutcher. The game would be played at St. Morinville.
I knew St. Martinville would be here, but I didn't think Lutcher. Well, I did, but I spoke for the Lutcher Quarterback Club, and I told their people, I said, look, y'all are going to be in this thing at the end. And they're like, because, they got a tough quarterback club. Those guys are tough on the coach. And they were a young team that grew up. They grew up in the last 6 weeks. They got a quarterback named Dwayne Whitfield.
Yeah.
Who's a junior. He looks like the North Seas kid that signed with LSU a few years ago from St. James. And he's a little more talented. He's a lefty, big guy, 6'2", about 220. He's only a junior.
how many quarterbacks in this next year's class? It's like
unbelievable.
He's like under the radar, very under the radar.
It's called Louisiana quarterbacks for the country next year.
Yep.
Athlon's needs to have a section called the top 10 quarterbacks in Louisiana for
alone.
2023.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Roy Forrest. So he's 5'7", 210. He's a hammer. But then there's Cleveland Parquette, who's 5'9", 215. Those two guys are phenomenal. And now you got Dwayne Whitfield that's starting to light it up, and you got a great defense and a big O-line at Lutcher. St. Martinville's got 12 guys that are going to go D1 or 1AA. Tanner Harrison's phenomenal at quarterback, 4-year starter. And they got the tall Harvey Broussard.
Yeah, one of the top
junior.
receivers in the country.
Hey, it's Shelton Sampson and him next year.
Yeah, and Amarion Miller.
And Amarion Miller.
Yep.
Those are 3 phenomenal players from North Caddo. But I hate to pick a team here because if it was at Lutcher, I'd go Lutcher. But I'm going St. Martinville because they are trying to knock the door down as well.
I agree.
They're a team I'm going to stick with. I think Lutcher has overachieved and done phenomenal. And next year they're going to be the team to beat. The Bulldogs will be the team to beat next year.
I agree. I think they're a year away, but this is still, I think they're ahead of schedule making the quarterfinals big time. And I see this being a really good game, but I have St. Martinville. I think that there's just too much talent on that team. And, this is probably their most talented team in years.
Let me just say this for people watching. If you go watch St. Martinville play the last 3 years, it's the same kids. 9 of these guys. Yeah, I said 9 players who can sign college scholarships and about 6 are D1. UL could sign 5 of these kids.
Yeah.
That's how much talent they have.
Yep.
And they're seniors. And they've got a bunch, like the Banco kid, he's a young guy.
Right.
But a lot of these guys are seniors that have been playing for 4 years.
Right. And I think it's just the stars lined up for them to make that far of a game, round and go into the next round for a run. And then the last playoff game would be number 2 Abbeyville. Yep, you got that one right. I did get Abbeyville advancing, and then I got number 7 Union Parish, so I got that one right too, advancing over Gina. They shut out Gina 22-0. Trey Holly had 2 rushing touchdowns, 153 yards. This is your normal average game for Holly. The defense pitched a shutout against Gina. They move on to the next round, and number 2 Abbeyville. They got a scare, though, from Wassman. It was 28-20. Abbeyville actually turned the ball over a couple of times, but then their running back, Blake Sadler, had a touchdown late to really, ice the game late in the football game. But talk about 2 of the best running backs there is in the state with Trey Holly for Union Parish, and then Blake Sadler, too, for really flying under the radar, but one of the best running backs in the state this year for Abbeyville. And then Union Parish, they're trying to go back to the state championship. They made it all the way to the state championship last year, fell short.
You know what I'm going to say.
But Abbeyville, they're making a Cinderella run, the best season they've had in years.
25 years.
Yeah, 20 years probably, since I was pretty little. And then, they under Coach Moy as the number 2 seed, they survive and advance. So which team, number 7 Union Parish, try and get back to the state championship, or will Abbeyville continue their incredible season this year?
Like the Blues Brothers movie, Jace, they believe. Abbeyville, their quarterback, Jason Selvin, is the best player nobody knows about. He's another quarterback.
Yep.
And he's a young quarterback from Louisiana. He's 6'3", about 210, and he is very talented. He's like a Chris at Madison Prep, just a younger version. He'll be the best player that Union Parish has faced all year. And then you put that with Sadler and Chad Nolan and all the great players they have at Abbeyville. This is not Abbeyville from the last 15, 20 years. This is Abbeyville that can come in the trenches and win the battle on OD line, and they've got skill guys that can play. Union Parish's OD line looks like an NFL team. Holly's a great running back, but again, they're one-dimensional. They do it well. Can Abbeyville stop the run game of Union Parish? They don't like to throw the ball. Union Parish might throw it 2 or 3 times a game.
Yeah.
Think about that. So Abbeyville, can they stop? I picked Abbeyville. I'm sticking with them.
Okay.
They're the Cinderella team. I got them going to the state championship game, and I still will stay with that.
Okay. I'm going to go with Union Parish. I think they just play bully ball. They want to intimidate you, and there's really a lot of teams that can really match that with Union Parish. You talk about Coach Spatafora, the weight program they've had, the strength and conditioning program, and that really helps late in the playoffs when you play these type of games. I think running the football, they want to win and dominate you on the offensive line. They want to win and dominate you on the defensive line, and that is a championship way of doing things. If you can win on the offensive line, you can win on the defensive line. Give me Union Parish to advance.
Power against skill.
Yep, which comes out on top. So,
well, Coach, don't get mad at me, Joe. I've always picked Union Parish. I just have this feeling, right? I have this feeling.
Yeah, the cards are there,
about
for
Abbeyville, and it's at Abbeyville.
Yeah.
If it was at Union Parish, I would go Union Parish because they don't lose at home in the playoffs.
Yep.
So I'm going with Abbeyville. The whole town, when I say the whole town of Abbeyville will be there will be people from 1975 and 80, 85 when they were really good that probably haven't been to a game, Jace, in 25 years.
Yep.
Those old Letterman coming back.
Right.
Guys my age, a little older than us, your dad's age. If I was going to the Abbeyville game, you probably need to get there at 4 o'clock. So you get a parking spot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what the community is going to be up for that game.
Armenian Catholic people will be there.
Yeah.
Because they're in Abbeyville. They're pulling for them.
Oh, yes. I mean, we talked about it from the beginning, from first round. We can see 7 or 8 teams. All 8 of these teams that are left, I can see.
Oh, they're all great teams.
Yeah, I could definitely see them making the runs for sure.
Yeah.
So, when we come back, we'll talk about 4A. Of course, we got to talk about In the Car and their quest again, but we'll talk about, the rest of 4A too. When we come back, you're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Be sure to take your car and truck for all your tire needs to Treads and Care Tire Company located in Central. The number to call is 331-8144. Family owned and operated since 1971. That's Treads and Care Tire Company.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host, Jace LeJeune. And Lee, we're going to talk about Class 4A. First off, And the Car had to play Eunice again for the second straight year. And the Car, they forced a couple of turnovers for Eunice. A.J. Samuel had 5 touchdown passes. And how about Taji Hill, the defensive lineman, had a scoop and score for the big man, had a touchdown in that game too. It was all And the Car. 53-7 against Eunice. Still a really young football team for Eunice. They're pretty much replacing all those guys that won the state championship a couple years ago. But yeah, And the Car, they're just a machine, a well-oiled machine. They move on to the quarterfinals. Also, other game, Carver, they flexed their muscles against Plaquemine 40-12. Kojo, the receiver, I talked to my dad the other day. He was just too much for him. Plaquemine had a couple of injuries with Mike Mitchell getting down. He did not play the game. The quarterback, Kobe Major, was a little banged up too, but injuries was a little bit too much for Plaquemine to handle. Had to play another quarterback. They lost 40-12. But I had to give a shout out to Dad, Plaquemine, the rest of their coaching staff. That's probably one of the most incredible turnarounds I've ever seen. Started the season 0-4, finished 5-0. Hosted a playoff game, won a playoff game. Still, congratulations to my dad and the season they've had. But their season ends as George Washington Carver will have to play In the Car. Carver is very familiar with Carr, of course. The game will be actually played at Carver. That sets up number 1 versus number 9.
You know what? There's not a program the last 10 years in Louisiana that loses 40 seniors every year. And they don't blink the next year. Do you know of anybody that loses 35, 40 seniors every year?
I don't.
And they still look the same? That's Ed in the Car. I mean, they've got it going on, man, as they say. We talk about Aaron Anderson, Jace. We talk about the quarterback and the running backs and the offense for Carr. But you know what's very, very underrated is they have the best linebacking core in the state of Louisiana. Their defensive line, you talk about Taji Hill, they've got 4 D1, D linemen, but they've got 5 linebackers that are going to play college ball. Now, you don't start 5. That means they've got 3 that come off the bench that are seniors that are going to sign. Think of that. Backup guys that are going to sign scholarships that don't even start in your linebacking core. And I wanted to mention these guys. Torrey Morgan, Deshaun Cockerham, Jaden Newton, Skyland John Louise, and their corner, Jonathan Jordan. These are just the seniors. This is not the D-line that's all going to play college ball. But when you got a linebacking core that can tackle anybody, when you've got 5 guys that look like Micro Bakersfield, it's tough to win. So Carver's strengths are running game, but guess what? The bad news is they've got 6 linebackers that can shut down anybody's running game, including Catholic High, whoever in the state. But I just think it's too much for Carver. They do have a good running game, like you said earlier. Gregory Emery's a real deal.
Yeah.
He's a stocky guy, strong, and then the other running back's really good. Cortez Williams, and then Henry Williams is a heck of a linebacker for Carver, and Edrin Johnson, their DN. But Carver is probably glad to be here. I know your dad's team would love to continue on, but whether it's Plaquemine playing here,
I think Dad's probably glad that they they probably fell.
But regardless of who was here, we could put 70 teams here, right? We're still going to say Edna Carr moves on.
Yeah, and the car. I mean, they're just a machine. I know Dad would have loved the opportunity to play this week, but it's going to be tough to play. In the car, and really tough for Carver. I mean, I really think Carver can hang with them for maybe 2 or 3 quarters, but it's just too much for in the car. It's just a machine.
Maybe a half.
A half, but in the car is going to be too much to handle. Now let's go to another quarterfinal matchup. Westgate defeated Leesville 16-7, low-scoring type of football game. Caleb Gow saw his career comes to an end at Leesville. Great career at Leesville, and they fall short. They actually had a really good defensive effort. Only holding an explosive Westgate team to only 16 points, but Westgate found a way to win. They had themselves a really good defensive performance of their own, so they advance, move on to the next round as they won 16-7. Who they play? Well, they play number 4 Northwood Shreveport, who, for the second time they played North DeSoto, both times was low-scoring affairs, 13-7. Northwood won the first time. They won the second time, too, this time by a 19-9 score. But either way, Northwood moves on to the second round, and that sets up a matchup between Westgate and Northwood Shreveport. Westgate is going to make the trip up to Shreveport, so the game will be played at Northwood. Westgate hoping to advance to the semis for the first time since 2010. And looking at Northwood, they're advanced to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2018. They're looking to punch their ticket to the semifinal round for the first time in program history.
Well, here's 2 teams that want to get to the state championship game. They've all been close. Here's the matchup, I think. Westgate's a big play team. They beat St. Thomas More this year. I know Walker Howard didn't play. I still think they would have beat him if he would have played. Westgate's really talented, but I'd like to see Westgate Jace have time-consuming drives with Steven Antone, their running back. That's how you're going to win this game. If you rely just on big plays against Northwood, you're not going to win the game. Northwood has the linemen to play with the trenches to shut down the big plays. And they picked up a guy from Evangel Christian this year, Bobby Burns, who's a safety corner, 6'3", about 180. He's changed their defense. And they got Jordan Clark, who's a great linebacker, 6'2", about 210. And also Andrew Walker, a big defensive end. And they've got a couple of other big-time D linemen. So it's going to be a very tough chore for Westgate to get a running game going or big plays, because this defense from Northwood's the real deal. Then on the other side, Northwood's got a great quarterback. Westgate's got Jordan Doucette or Brennan Landry, whoever they want to play. When one's not playing quarterback, the other one's playing receiver. I'm sticking with Westgate advancing. That's what I picked early on. But Northwood, man, they're very talented. As Central High School. I mean, they're very talented, and this is a team that, this game's probably going to be like 37-34 in the end. It's going to be close.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Westgate advancing to the next round and moving on. And you talk about the offense, the 2 quarterbacks that they have. Both of them can play receivers. There's so many weapons on offense. They have a 5-star safety, too, on defense, too. So they have a really good athletes. I like their athleticism, and I like them to move on. Should be a really good game. I like Mason Welsh and their quarterback and their defense, too. They play complementary football. I think this is a really evenly matched game. And considering how many points they've scored last week, I mean, Westgate scored 16, Northwood scored 19. I think it's going to be a very evenly matched game, and I have Westgate advancing, though, to move on to the semis. So that is the top side of the bracket. Let's move to the bottom side of the bracket. Opelousas, they actually hosted a playoff game for the first time in 17 years, but it wasn't a warm welcome for the Opelousas home fans as Warren Neeson came with a vengeance, 67-6 over Opelousas. They're on a mission. They're trying to break through the door of winning a Class 4A state championship. And their next opponent, hey, Lee, I got this one right. So this is one I got right. And, yep, so I'm going to be happy about this one with Belle Chase defense coming out on top against Huntington 31-28. Belle Chase kicked a field goal in the last couple of seconds to get the victory over Huntington. So that sets up Belle Chase and Warren Easton in the next round. And we talk about Belle Chase. It was a 6-hour drive, but I know it was a really enjoyable drive back when you come on the road and win a playoff game when you drive 6 hours back. But this is a whole different animal in this next round when you have to play Warren Easton, and they're on a mission. They're trying to play. They want to play in the car again. They've always played in the car, have never really overcome the hump of being them, and you know they want that opportunity again. And in order to do so, they're going to have to go against Belle Chase and pass them in this game.
Well, Belle Chase is a junior, sophomore, freshman team, and they've grown up. They shocked me. They beat a Huntington team, which was a little older team, and on the road, as you mentioned. Belle Chase has 3 great linebackers. They're all juniors. Regas, Smith, and another Regas, Gary Regas, and Carlos Regas. I mean, they're very good on defense. Here's the deal. Warren Easton was a little rusty to start the season because they had a late start with the hurricane, missed some couple of games, 2-3 games. That's kind of why their record's a little misleading. They're really a 1 seed. Their linebacker, number 1, Jaray Johnson, is unbelievable.
Yep.
And he's only a junior. Let me tell you when I say unbelievable. He's LSU starting 4-year starter, unbelievable. He's only a junior. He's been MVP as a sophomore of Class 4A. Who's a sophomore MVP and as a linebacker in 4A? He might end up being the MVP on defense this year in 4A as a junior. He's got a year left. When I say this guy dominates, he's a Devin White of Warren Easton. We usually talk about Warren Easton's offense, but really the strength of their team this year is their defense. Yeah. And so he's the reason. And this guy is so good, Jace. He averages about 15 tackles a game, couple of sacks every week. He's a dominating intimidator. And that's why I think Warren Easton will keep winning. Belle Chase will make it a game because they have a good defense. But it's not – we're used to seeing Warren Easton offensively, the running backs, the receivers. Now it's their defense, which makes them even more dangerous to beat in the future games here.
And you mentioned about Warren Easton's linebacker, talking to Coach Phillips before the season. He said he's the best linebacker in the state. He is the best linebacker in the state.
When he plays the game, and I watched him earlier this year against Scotlandville, he intimidated everybody on the field, even the referees. I mean, when he walks around, he expects, effort. That's a coach on the field. This is a 16-year-old kid, right? 15 years old, he's MVP of 4A as a linebacker. When he brings it, he reminds me of Devin White. Now, he's not Devin White, size yet, but he's about 215, 6 foot, but he runs about a 4.5, and I'm telling you, he looks 4.2 on the field. Try to make a play happen when number 1's roaming around. It looks like Deion Jones now with the Atlanta Falcons is what he looks like and what he's going to be when he's done. But, I mean, again, if I'm your dad scouting film or any coach, I'm like, look, wherever 1's going to be, go the other way, please.
Yeah, right. And sometimes that's not even enough because he'll probably come from the other side of the field and bring you down.
So I'm sure Coach Myers from Belle Chase is going to say, look, run wherever 1's not at. Right. If he's lined up on the right, go left. If he's on the left side, go right. And when we throw the ball, by the way, we need an extra blocker for this guy that's coming after my quarterback.
Oh, yes. We'll see what Belle Chase makes those adjustments. So that game would be played at Pan Am on Friday. So Warren Easton and Belle Chase. Now here's the last quarterfinal matchup in Class 4A. Number 7, Cecilia. Overtime against Lakeshore. They pulled out the victory 44-37, won the 3 overtime games. And you called Cecilia. I actually called Cecilia as well. So we had them both advancing. And then, not surprised, Neville won, but it was a struggle. It was 19-15, and actually in that game, Will Campbell came back.
Well, they said he didn't play.
Well, he entered the game after sitting the first half, and he came back, and immediately they scored a touchdown running to his side. So shows you how much of a difference he makes. But he did play in the second half of that Neville game, and it was ugly. I mean, Carencro was missing 14 guys, and they still played it really tough against Neville, 19-15.
But realize this: Carencro was the champion from last year.
Yep, right, defending Class 4A champion.
And mentally, I talked to a lot of Neville people. Do you know they were 0 for 3 playing at Carencro? Neville was.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So I mean, that was a mental can we go there and win? Because Carencro had their number. Because they played them in the playoffs before, and Carencro beat them before. So it's like getting the off your back. I mean, that was I talked to a couple of Neville parents. They were like, "Are you sure we're going to go to Carencro and win the Crow Dome?"
Yeah.
And these were the champs, man. These guys won it last year. So.
And they played, and it wasn't pretty last year. Mentally, you have to, this team beat us 49-7 last year, so that's another mental hump you have to really overcome.
Yeah, and so Neville over the hump. I got him going to state championship game.
Yeah, I do too. I have them going to the state championship.
And they're my pick to win it all over Edna Carr, who we're bragging about. But like I said, this was take your hat off to
Coach Corville.
Coach Carville. Tony, great job, man. Without your starting quarterback for the year that got hurt. 14 guys out, and you lost about 16 the year before. I mean, unbelievable job.
You can make a case, even though they won the state championship last year, you can say this is just as good of a coaching job or if better than last year with the circumstances.
It's a whole new team just about.
Yeah.
And one good thing about Carencro, they're very young, and they got a lot back. They got 90% of their team back, so that's bad news for 4A next year with the rest of the teams.
So that sets up the quarterfinal match of number 2 Neville. Now, the good thing for Neville to get back home, and you know how intimidating place that is to play at Neville. And Cecilia has to go on the road, and Cecilia's actually been undefeated this year when they've played on the road since they haven't lost since the first week of the season. Their 2 losses came against St. Marvinville and Notre Dame.
And look, this is a great Cecilia team. They are a great team. And for their program, this is probably one of their best teams. And they've had many great teams since the 70s. Many, many great teams. Wagaspack was coaching a lot of these teams way back. But the job they're doing is phenomenal. They're just running into a pro team in Neville at home, at Neville's place. I want to mention some Cecilia kids, Jace, because we don't talk about them a lot. Caden Ruiz on the O-line's a senior, a big-time player for them. Gavin Knott's an O-lineman. It's a big-time senior for them. Kennedy Livings has been a 4-year starter for them at linebacker. Alex Soye, the quarterback's done a phenomenal job. He's a great athlete. Andrew Simon, and also, get this, Braxton Abear, punter and kicker, the best punter and kicker on a high school team in the state. And here's one thing I'll say. They have the best special teams unit. What if this, you never know. And I picked Neville to win it all and win this game, but these 2 guys are D1. They have a D1 punter and a D1 kicker. So if the game is close, Cecilia might could pull off the upset. I think it's going to be a close game. It's not going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. And Cecilia's a veteran team, but I have Neville advancing. That I have them going to the state championship. So there we go. I have them playing in the car in the state championship. But let's see if Cecilia can prove me wrong against Carencro. So that is your 4A quarterfinal matchups. When we come back, the last public bracket, which is 5A, and we know 5A is going to be a dogfight to the very end. But yeah, we're going to take a quick commercial break. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Come and visit the majestic mansion in the marsh, Grove Savon, Waterfowl, and Wildlife Lodge. Grove Savon is the true sportsman's paradise. Grove Savon Lodge has everything for you from fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco tours. Located south of Lake Charles. Call 337-598-2357 or visit www.grovesavon.com for more information and schedule your trip to the majestic mansion in the marsh, Grove Savon, Waterfowl, and Wildlife Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise today.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I'm your host, Jace LeJeune, for today. And Lee, we have one more public bracket to go through, then we have the private schools after that. And then 5A, we had number 1 Zachary advancing going to the state championship. They're trying to win their 4th state championship under Coach David Brewerton. But it was not easy against East Ascension, 24-21. Holstein was not his best day. He had a couple of fumbles, but he did find a way to overcome all that and lead the team to victory. It's a 10-name place to play at East Ascension. And, I mean, I know the Zachary coaching staff was sweating after that one to get through that one, 24-21. On the other side, West Monroe, they defeated Chalmette. Chalmette, it was their best season in quite a while, but they fall to West Monroe for the second year in a row, 49-7. West Monroe dominated after surviving the first round. Now, 2 of the most passionate fan bases in schools there is in 5A with Zachary, West Monroe. Lee, I bet at Zachary on Friday, there's going to be people tailgating at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just one of those, both these programs. West Monroe is going to make the travel, of course. They're very passionate. There's going to be thousands of people at this game on Friday night.
Well, this is going to be a very physical game. And I know we can say that all day. When I say physical, this is going to be one of those games where the linemen probably won't they'll be in the sauna for like 3 days. Okay? I mean, this is going to be who is going to bring it for 60 minutes the most. West Monroe's really become a good team, Jace. These 2 teams went at it this summer in a scrimmage. They didn't want to play one another again because Zachary knew West Monroe was getting better. West Monroe knew Zachary's good. They played in a state championship game, which was won in the last minute by Zachary a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure West Monroe can't still not forget Chris Hilton after what he did that game.
So, I mean, I really like West Monroe, but I think Zachary will win it. But this is going to be this is going to be one of the most physical games Friday night in the state. This is a game that you want to watch it, and you're not even a fan of either team, and you want to watch it again.
Yeah.
The offensive line for West Monroe are a lot of seniors. Gavin Dempsey, their tight end's like another lineman. Their running back Pleasance had a great year.
Louisiana Tech.
I know Zachary's worried about him. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, Zachary's D-line is going to win this game. If Cameron Hamilton keeps having a great game, he's 6'4", 280. Xavier Robinson, their DN, who's a senior, 6'3", 215. And also Ashton Freeman, who's about 240. They're going to be the glue. You cannot let West Monroe and Pleasant run all over you. And at the same time, you can't have Holstein sprinkle the ball all over you on defense if you're West Monroe. And their defense, Jace, at West Monroe is getting better. They're staying healthy. I tell you, even though I picked Zachary, this is one of those games that might be like 10-7, 7-3, 17-14.
Yeah.
It's going to be a sweater now. It's going to be one of those games that Zachary just won a game like that.
Yeah, they did against East Ascension.
And who's got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
West Monroe is definitely they got some grind to them. They didn't forget that state championship game.
No, 2018, and really they're about 45 seconds, a minute away from winning that state championship.
And there's going to be 2,000 West Monroe fans travel. Always 2,000. That's a lot of fans.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fans on both sides.
It might be. I would think 6,000 fans will be at the game. Maybe 7.
Might be people just like. Yeah, it's going to be a sold-out crowd and people standing on the end zones, packing the stadium with nowhere to go.
Let me mention some unsung heroes of West Monroe we never mentioned.
Yeah.
Thatcher Moorhead's an O-lineman. That's really good for them. Jackson Weaver, another O-lineman, about 285. Seth Duncan, who's been in the program a long time. All these guys are 280, 290. And then I mentioned Gavin Dempsey, who's 230, 6'2", their tight end. But it's one of those games. If we flipped a penny right now, it's one of those games. It's going to be that close of a game in Zachary.
All right, let's go to the next quarterfinal game. That should be a good one to go to with Zachary and West Monroe. But this is another good one. Number 5, Ruston against number 4, Destrehan. It does not get any easier in 5A. Ruston really beat the brakes off of Benton, 56-16. That was really a statement win over Benton. And then talking about the other game with Woodlawn and Destrehan, I had actually Woodlawn pulling off the upset. And it was 22-20 for quite a while. And then their running back, Shane Lee, had a 40-yard touchdown at the very end that really iced the game for him to make it 20-17. 39-20. And really talking about Ruston, they haven't advanced past the quarterfinals since 1998, which is, by the way, the year my brother was born. So it's been a while. And then for as far as Destrehan, they're 2 seasons removed from the last time they played in the state championship game, which was against Acadiana. So they're trying to get back to the state championship. Destrehan, Ruston, it should be a very good one. Number 4 versus number 5. The game will be played at Destrehan.
It's going to look like Nicholls State and Southeastern O-line wise. Do you realize these are the 2 biggest OD lines for 2 teams playing one another Friday night in the state?
Yep.
They're both 300 pounds across on the D line. They're both 300 pounds across on the O line. And none of these guys play both sides of the ball. This is 2 of the gigantic heavyweights going at it. And Destrehan likes to spread it out. Ruston likes to run right at you. And it's going to be one of those games where I'm going Destrehan.
Okay, I'm going to go Ruston.
I think Destrehan's got a lot of skill guys that can get big plays. The only way you beat Ruston is big plays. Ruston's not used to seeing this much speed, even though they played Neville and they played West Monroe. This is a lot of speed they have to deal with that they're not. They're used to dealing with power.
Sure, right.
But Destrehan has. You mentioned the running back earlier, who's only a sophomore. They also have LeBranch, who's a senior. So they've got those big guys to run. But if I am Destrehan, I'm throwing it in at 4 wide because Ruston's not going to let you run right at them.
No.
Their defense is very, very good. And they're coached by Kyle Williams, the former LSU D tackle.
Yep.
Is the D coordinator, former future Hall of Famer with the Buffalo Bills. But when you look at Will Bryant, I think he's going to be the key in this, Jace, the kicker from Destrehan. He's one of the best kickers in the state. And I think it's going to come down to a field goal or who has the ball last. I'm going to go Destrehan on this only because it's at Destrehan.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, I'll tell you, I'll make it interesting. I'm going to go with Ruston. I think this is an evenly matched game. I really like really both teams, the line of scrimmage, the offense, defensive line. And I like Ruston's just ability to, I love those teams that are able to run the football and play great defense at this time of year that wins championships. And I'm really pulling for Coach Ball and Ruston because they've always been at this point too, and they never really gone past the quarterfinals last year. I thought they had the better team last year, and they had that chance to go to the past that, and they fell just short. So I think this team was motivated all year as far as make it a goal of theirs to get past that point.
Here's the sleeper. I keep waiting for Devion Wilson to take over.
Yeah.
He's 6 foot 270 running back.
Right.
6 foot 270 that can move.
Everybody knows about Dyson Fields, the other running back, but Wilson could be
be the sleeper to make. And I'm not talking about just runs. I'm talking about blocking. I'm talking about his presence on offense to continue to help make holes for that offense. And they've got a young quarterback at Ruston. But again, the offensive line at Ruston against Destrehan's D-line is the battle of the Titans. I mean, those are some tough dudes. The Ruston O-line, all 5 players, I think, can play college somewhere. In Destrehan, all 5 of their D-linemen look like they play for the Steelers. So, I mean, who do you pick? Like you said, just toss-up.
Yeah, it should be a really good one. The game, once again, in case you haven't mentioned it or listened to it, game will be played at Destrehan. So let's go to the bomb side, Class 5A. Number 3, Ponchatoula defeated John Eyre 50-7. And we talk about the Jacob Hester of high school football. Braden Johnson had 225 yards rushing, had 3 touchdowns, and probably listen to this, Lee. He had an interception on defense, and when he caught it, he was at the 20-yard line. He drugged like 2 players on his back in order to get in the end zone 20 yards. So he had a interception return for a touchdown, carrying guys on his back, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns on the offense. So it was the Braden Johnson show on Friday. They get past John Eyre. Big statement victory, 50-7. Now they get to play Washita Parish. Washita Parish, wow, what a run by Denham Springs, though. They fell short 20-14. Coach Beard, they had an upset against your alma mater in the first round, and they really almost pulled the upset against Washita, only losing by 6 points. So congratulations on their run, but they just fall just short, advancing to the quarterfinals. Now number 3 Ponchatoula against number 11 Washita. The game will be played at Washita, Hank Tierney and Ponchatoula. Ponchatoula has not advanced to the semifinal round since 1952. But they have a tall task ahead of them. This has been a historic season for Ponchatoula too. Washita Parish. They've been hot. They've won 5 straight games, and this is their first quarterfinal game since 2012. Yeah, and actually with this stat, the Monroe area team has not advanced to the semifinals since 2005. So we'll see what gives here between Ponchatoula and Washita.
This is about Washita's defense against Ponchatoula's offense. Ponchatoula's offense is the strength of their team. You've heard about all their recruits. Marion Walker committed to Notre Dame.
Yep.
Receiver. We're talking about Braden Johnson, who's a bigger version of Jacob Hester.
Right, Jacoby Matthews.
And a senior O-line. On the other hand, Washita has 6 seniors on their defense at some of the best in the Monroe area. That includes West Monroe, Neville, Ruston, all those teams. Jalen Kincaid, their DB, is one of the best in the city of Monroe. Philip Bradford, their DN, is phenomenal. I don't know why LSU hasn't offered him. 6'4", 260, runs a 4.6. So who wins that battle? I'm taking Washita winning that battle.
Yep.
Because Ponchatoula hasn't played a defense like Monroe's Washita Parish.
Right.
I'll call them Washita. That's what I've always called them. But Washita is, let's just say, battle ready. They've played every offense in the Monroe area that has power and speed, like Neville, West Monroe, all these good Wassman, Richwood. Those are some powerful teams.
Yeah.
So they're not going to see Ponchatoula as being something different than they haven't seen already. Ponchatoula usually is the most athletic team on the field during the season in Tangible Parish.
Right.
So I'm going Washita to win it.
I agree with you. I actually agree with you there on the upset.
And, Jeremy Nelson and Maury Randall are defensive guys for Washita Parish. Cody Finley needs to step up. That's
TJ's younger brother.
6'5". He needs to step up a little bit in this game. They need Amorian Walker to step up.
Mm-hmm.
And they need Dentrell Osby to step up a little bit to help Matthews out.
Right.
Because Braden Johnson's not going to run for 220 yards in this game.
No.
So somebody's going to have to step up and have some long play. And look, Washita's got 4 Division I DBs, so it's kind of matched up in their hand. And their offense is pretty good too at Washita. Yep. So again, I'm going to go and look. I want Ponchatoula to win because this could be Hank's last year.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to go with, I think, the better defense is Washita.
I agree. I like Washita in this matchup, and they played the Western Rose, the Rustons. They beat those teams this year, so they're not intimidated, not scared of Ponchatoula. And you talk about that defensive end that you really like, too, for Washita. He can close the game out, and I think he really can. I think he closed the game out against Sims Springs last week, and he has a chance to really, be in that position.
You know who he reminds me of, Jace? Chris Allen from Southern Lab that went to Alabama.
Yep.
Before Chris Allen had his injuries.
Right.
That's Philip Bradford, but he's more talented and more gifted than even Chris Allen. LSU hasn't offered him. And he's a senior. The only reason he wasn't offered because he wasn't ranked.
And he moved to Texas.
Yeah, he was in Dallas for a year,
right.
And he came back. So all this stuff about no junior film. Hey, if he has a great senior year and he's the best defensive end in the state, offer the kid. Like I said, Bradford, I've seen him make tackles to where only a cornerback could get there. This guy's 260. He runs like a corner when they run the ball left or right, sideline to sideline. And then Glass, their linebacker, he's 6'2", 225 and looks like Bakersfield from LSU. So, yeah, it's going to be one of those games that, hey, they can shut Ponchatoula down or slow down Braden Johnson. Ponchatoula's got to make a big play to win the game.
And then our last game, I do agree with you, though. I have Washita advancing to the next round. And then the last quarterfinal matchup, number 7 at Acadiana. I know you had Sam All winning, but Acadiana, the Wrecking Rams, just continued to wreck opponents, and they defeated Sam All 56-23. They're on a mission, too. They're trying to get their 3rd straight Class 5A state championship. Well, they have to play a Cinderella team in Parkway. They won 30-23 over the number 2 seed, a huge upset with number 2 seed Captain Shreve going down to Parkway. Ron Richmond is having himself a great playoff run. He had in that game against Captain Shreve 208 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and Jalen White for Parkway also had 208 receiving yards on 8 catches in order to get the upset over Captain Shreve. Just a couple of notes for this round. Parkway, they lost 3 of his last 5 on-field contests and really entered the playoffs, which makes this run really surprising considering they were on a losing streak in the playoffs.
They're a young team.
But they've been just on a just a run the last couple of weeks, and then that sets up, with this game against, Acadiana. They're trying to get back to the state championship for the third straight year. Parkway, their last semifinal appearance came in 2013 when they went to the Superdome. So it's been a while for Parkway. They're trying to make sure that Cinderella, that the magic run doesn't strike at midnight again against Acadiana. But does it strike at midnight, or will Acadiana still keep on continuing to wreck and keep on moving on?
Well, when you think of Parkway, you think of Brandon Harris that played quarterback at LSU, Terrace Marshall, and all the great players, all the quarterbacks that have come to Parkway. Parkway is very young. And I mentioned earlier this year on our show that they're a young team. Don't get caught up in their record, because those young guys become really good players later in the year. Acadiana is Acadiana. That defensive line with Walter Bobb and Caden Anderson, those guys are big time. And look, Acadiana is Acadiana. They just changed the numbers and the jerseys. They're still big on the D-line. They're still – Omori Wiggins is a heck of a running back, and they need a big game out of him. And here's the deal about this game. It's at Parkway, which is a little different usually at this time of the year. It's usually at Acadiana on most of the semis. Parkway is going to give Acadiana all they can handle, because the offense and defensive lines for Parkway are huge, and they can run, and these guys are talented. Malachi White, Devin Hall, these are big-time guys that play for Parkway that weigh 290, 280, 6'3", 6'2". The difference in this game is going to be Jesus Martinez, punter kicker for Acadiana. He's one of the best in the state. He averages about 45 yards a punt, Jace. He's got the hang time where the ball goes in there, you think it's gone. Like, it doesn't come down. Like, wait, did a bird take it? I mean, but Jesus Martinez is an LSU good punter, okay? He's up there with the punter, Kylan Dupree from Catholic High. They're the top two punters in the state, I think. But Acadiana, way too much. They're going to roll on. But Parkway, again, it's going to be a good game. It's one of those games like East Ascension and Zachary this past week.
Right.
Might be one of those 24-21 games.
Yep, so that wraps up 5A. Should be a lot of really good matchups there. When we finished the public side of the brackets, we have private semifinal action coming up here. We'll talk about Division 4 when we come back, which is private for Class 1A. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. We'll be right back.
Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City.
Okay, welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. Lee was talk about Division 4 with our semifinal matchup, and Lee, it's going to be a really good one. A rematch of last year's state championship, Washita Christian. They just defeated Central Catholic 42-0. Calvary Baptist, they defeated Sacred Heart 63-7. Sets up Washita Christian and Calvary Baptist. Remember that game last year? Calvary Baptist won the state championship. Landry Gliddy threw for like a gazillion yards, 464 yards against Washita Christian. I guarantee Washita Christian remembers that, and both these teams have been marking their calendar all year long. And this could be whoever comes out of that matchup, Lee, could end up being your Division 4 state champion.
Well, I picked Calvary Baptist, so I got to stick with it. As the champion in the end, 2-time champion, I'm picking him. And I'm friends with Fitzhugh from Washita Christian. I always pull for him, but this is the game of the quarterbacks and the receivers. This is where it's going to be won. Who has the big plays? Landry Liddy's got Flowers at wideout. He's got Aubrey Hermes, whose daddy played at Kentucky a few years ago. He's only a sophomore. You got Walter Williams that can catch some balls. And then on the other side, man, you've got Tristan Wiley, Thomas Culp, Brock Hogan, and you got Landon Graves, a quarterback. It's the game of the quarterbacks. So whoever has the best game, whether it's Liddy or Graves, that's who's going to win the game. I'm taking Calvary Baptist. Liddy's the older quarterback. Graves still has a year left. Here's my thoughts. I think Washita Christian wins the state title next year. This year, it's Liddy's last year. Calvary Baptist again.
Okay, I'm going to go with Washita Christian. I think it is going to be a high-scoring offensive game.
Yeah.
But I think what defense do I trust more? when it comes to making that stop or two. I think Washita Christian gets that extra stop needed in order to get that game. And I think Washita Christian has been hearing about this game over and over over again.
Yeah.
And I think they're tired of it. They're going to play with a lot of enthusiasm. The game will be played at Washita Christian. I like Washita Christian because I picked them from the very beginning to win the state championship. But I know Landry Liddy, he's going to get his yards, he's going to get his touchdowns. But I like what Graves has been doing. Tristan Wiley, he could be the difference maker. He had 2 punt returns for touchdowns last week. So special teams, too, can make a difference in this type of ball game. But I like Washita Christian. Even though I think Calvary Baptist has the better offense, I think Washita Christian has the more complete team. I'm going to go with Washita Christian, but should be a classic, though. And then let's go to the bomb side of the bracket. St. Frederick, you called it, Lee, 31-7 against Vermilion Catholic. They're making a really good, impressive run. They defeated Opolis Catholic, Vermilion Catholic, and have a chance to knock off another one with Southern Lab. Southern Lab coming in at the number 2 seed. They defeated Country Day 39-6. Izzard had a couple of touchdowns. The running game combined for like 300 yards rushing. But now Southern Lab, if their talent shows up, I mean, it's going to be tough really for anybody to handle. But St. Frederick, you've been saying all year long this whole playoff run how talented they are. They're trying to get back to the state championship with another win against another higher seed in Southern Lab. Can they get it done?
You're going to see a 14 seed go to the state championship game.
Okay.
And I've been telling you this for, a month?
Yeah.
I said St. Frederick's. I watched the team play this year. Man, they are so good on offense and defense. And the team, it's a team. They don't make mistakes. They are a senior-laden team. They've got the defense you want. They got the offense you want. They got a lot of good linebackers that go also fullback on offense. Southern Lab, they beat you with big plays. And you're not going to sustain drives against St. Frederick's defense. St. Frederick's defense will probably be the best defense they play all year long, Jace. But look, when Herman Brister's on and Izzard's on, the quarterback from Southern Lab, Carl Williams, Thornton, the running back, Sean Bates, Chris Best, Raylan Jenkins, all these guys are going to sign D1. But I don't go on who has D1 players. I go on the team and who can match up and this and that. But St. Frederick's, that defense has faced some good teams in Monroe. They faced everybody. Sterlington, they faced Washita Christian, the Cedar Creeks. They're ready for this. And I told you from the beginning, this is not a 14th seed team. And if it comes down to it, I still think it's going to be a close game because Lab's got a lot of talent. It's going to come down to Jacob Green, their D1 kicker. That's their best D1 prospect.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is their kicker at St. Frederick's has a 50-yard leg. And this might come down to him making some field goals. It might be like a 9-6 game when this is over. But St. Fred's definitely has a chip on their shoulder. Lab's been in a state championship game many times. St. Frederick's been a handful of times, and they're ready to go back.
I'm going to go with Southern Lab. I like the talent of Southern Lab, and I think they just pull it all together, and they go to the state championship. So that is Division 4, and that Washita Christian Calvary game is going to be a fun one to watch. When we come back, we're going to talk about Division 3 coming up, the private side of Class 2A, and those are 2 really good matchups. We're going to talk about them when we come back. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
You need a paint job or repairs to your vehicle, you've got to go to Medine's Collision Center located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Kincaid Avenue. The number to call is 357-7983. That's 357-7983. Family owned since the 1960s.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. We're going to talk about Division 3, which is the private side of Class 2A. And, but these are 2 heavyweights coming up for semifinal games. Not a lot of matchups when it comes to private side bracket for this, but the matchups mean a lot more early on. I mean, it's a tough road to get to the state championship playing all through these teams. And LCA, the number 1 seed, they're trying to go for, can you believe it, Lee, 5 straight, a 5th straight state championship if they pull it off.
Like Ed and Carr, it's unheard of.
33-10, they defeat Ascension Episcopal. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about the last game, but since I was on the call with Isadora Newman and Episcopal was on the call with Lon Elsie with that game for VSN, It was all Newman 37-6 from the start. It was a very good atmosphere for that football game. I mean, a really good crowd showing up. All the celebrities. Lane Kiffin was there. Arch Manning. I mean, everybody was showing up for this game. But Newman, it was just a dominant start from start to finish. Arch Manning had his 3 touchdowns, but I was more impressed with the way the defense played, the defensive front played, and the way that they ran the football, too. Now it sets up Newman, LCA. Newman's never been to the state championship. They're trying to get over that hump. They'll play LCA, trying to go for their 5th straight state championship. I'm excited because I found out the other day that I'm going to be on the call for that one for Newman. So representing Newman, even though I've been announcing for Episcopal all season long, but on the call for Newman for that one. LCA, Newman. Can Newman and Arch Manning get to the state championship, or will LCA go for the state championship again for the 5th year in a row?
What's different about Newman, and you saw this against Episcopal, Jace, is the D-line for Newman's bigger now.
Yeah.
And they've never really had a big D-line. And if you're going to beat Lafayette Christian, we can talk about all their skill guys. They're mostly receivers and DBs, but they have a big OD line for this classification,
Sure.
Lafayette Christian. So you have to match them. Fitzgerald West, Brennan Charles, Macy Lewis on the D-line. These are all Lafayette Christian guys that are going to play college ball. But now Newman has a D-line. And they controlled that D-line against Episcopal.
Yeah.
Brandon Williams is not a player that usually this program's used to having. Sean Sutherland, William Hewitt, Ramsey Waiters,
Yep.
Britt Bordelon.
Yep, right.
These are big guys that are 240, 250, 260, and some of these guys are 6'3", 4. So you can't push these guys around. This is going to be a matchup problem for Lafayette Christian.
Yeah.
I am going to pick – I don't think I made this pick for the Dome, or did I? Because I don't want to go back on my pick. But
I think you put with LCA.
I tell you, I probably regret.
I'm feeling less and less confident about the LCA
I'm gonna keep my pick.
Yeah.
But I think Newman. I could see Newman winning this game because the D line can control. Episcopal was so athletic. And I thought that they were going to score a lot of points.
That was
on
a statement.
Newman.
That was a statement.
Newman just shut that down defensively.
Yeah.
Newman's past was they didn't have a good defense, and they've always had good offenses.
They had to outscore a lot of teams.
Yeah.
This Newman defense, this Newman team feels really different because I think they're more equipped now to beat LCA.
Yeah.
It used to be them just throwing the football and hopefully you outscore the other team. But now it's not just Arch Manning. They can run the football too. They got 2 good running backs, and their defense has been really good too. I think it's as good of a chance as ever, but I had LCA at the very beginning, so I had to go with LCA.
Yeah.
And until they proved me wrong, they won the last 4 state championships.
Right.
So just because of what they've done the last 4 years, I have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, anybody can win this game. I picked Lafayette Christian 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. But Newman, if anybody looks different from the season to now, is them. And Arch, he doesn't have to do too much. With this team.
He really didn't do that much against Episcopal.
Yeah, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to.
And they've got a great tight end that's 240, 6'4".
Randall, yep.
They've got a great, team. And so, he could throw for 150 yards and they could win this game. Mm-hmm. Again, their D-line is different from the 30 years I've watched them. So we'll see, and then we're going to talk about the next two teams.
It seems like we see this every single year.
Same two
teams, the St. Charles Catholic and Notre Dame. St. Charles Catholic pitched a shutout, 27-0. Like Church Point, they've limited about 3 or 4 touchdowns all season long. They've been very dominant. And then Notre Dame 42-7 over St. Thomas Aquinas. We talk about Louis Cook and them really flying under the radar. We haven't really talked about them as much as St. Charles Catholic and the other 2 teams we just talked about. But you can't count out Louis Cook. And actually, St. Charles Catholic barely won Notre Dame last year's in the semis, matter of fact. So really both teams, Notre Dame is going to be very motivated to play this game. And St. Charles Catholic, with their defense, they shut out Newman the last time both these 2 teams played this year. St. Charles Catholic, Notre Dame, 2 of the best programs there is in this bracket. And one has a chance to go to the state championship game.
Notre Dame is happy to be here. And I think if you were to talk to Coach Cook before the season, he would be just glad to make the playoffs. This is not one of his most talented teams. This is one of his youngest teams in a long time. And I'm sure they want to get to the state championship game and win it all. But I think St. Charles Catholic is built to win it in this game. Their offensive line, D-line is just phenomenal. So what they did to Newman, Redrick Hackett on defense at DB, Caden Jones at linebacker, defensive end is one of the best athletes, big guys in this whole classification. Moses Clark, Eric Kadar, they've got the big linemen that can run. Now, Notre Dame, they're smaller than they've even been in the past. They've got a young quarterback, one-year starter, Nick Swacker, whose uncle is former Coach Swacker at Santa Maria High School.
Yep.
He's 6'3", and they've overachieved. I mean, this defense is young, Jace. They're not big, but they're Notre Dame Pio defense. They're scrappy, led by Alex Stevens at linebacker, Luke Hoffpair, Caleb Como, David Trissler, Matt Bernard are a few guys on defense, but I'm going St. Charles Catholic. In the end here, playing Lafayette Christian state championship game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a rematch of last year's state championship game. I have St. Charles Catholic advancing and going to the state championship, but I know Notre Dame wants to win after losing 24-22 last year. I mean, these are two gigantic games when you talk about both sides. But Lee, we have two more brackets to go to. Division II coming up, which is a combination of private 3A and 4A. We'll take another commercial break. You're watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Be sure to take your car and truck for all your tire needs to Treads and Care Tire Company, located in Central. Call 331-8144. Family owned and operated. It's 1971. That's 331-8144.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. Lee, we're reaching the fourth quarter. We got two more brackets left to go, Division II and Division I. For Division II, well, before I move to Division II, I'm just letting you know that Division III, that state championship game will be played at Yeoman. So that'll be the road to Yeoman, I guess, for the state championship. All the public games will be played at the Dome. And then now for Division II, that game will be played at Cajun Field in Lafayette.
Right.
So this will be Division II. So the road to Lafayette begins with number 1 E.D. White against number 5 St. Thomas More. E.D. White coming off a 21-3 win over Parkview. Great defensive effort. And then great season for Liberty, but their first season in LHSAA it ends here, losing to St. Thomas More 63-35. And something has to give. E.D. White's defense has been very strong all season long, but they're playing another this is really their best and biggest challenge yet to date, with St. Thomas More coming into town. They scored 56 points against Evangel, scored 63 against Liberty. Walker Howard and that offense. Can E.D. White slow their offense down a little bit? And they've played some really good teams this year. They defeated St. James. They defeated Lutcher this year. But this is going to be a whole new task when you're playing against Walker Howard in this offense.
Well, I mean, it's just Walker Howard against everybody, and the team at St. Thomas More is healthy finally. E.D. White's had a great year, Jace. They're a young team. Actually, their best players are juniors. Matthew Malassaw is one of the best players in the state. He's a young guy. Aiden Clements is an underclassman on defense. And Braxton Como, a linebacker, all young guys. So E.D. White's set for 2 years. I'm going St. Thomas More to get in the state championship game. I just think it's a different animal playing Walker that's healthy now. They've got 6 receivers that have 12 games of experience now, new guys. They're not new anymore. And I think St. Thomas More's defense has improved a lot in the last 2 weeks. So St. Thomas More over a good E.D. White team.
Yeah, I'm going to make things interesting. And I had at the very beginning, it's kind of one of those things with LCA, I'm feeling less and less confident about this pick with St. Thomas More and how their offense has been clicking. But, yeah, I think E.D. White's just been the better team all season long. They've been unstoppable. I mean, they limited, in 7 of his last 9 games this year, they limit teams to 10 points or less. So their defense has been very strong, and I really like the defense. And really their offense play time of possession, limit Walker Howard's possessions. That's what you do when you have to play against a really good quarterback. I'm going to go with E.D. White on this one, but yeah, I'm feeling really nervous about this pick considering how high of an offense St. Thomas More has been with Walker Howard when he's come back from the injury. So that is one side of the bracket. St. Thomas More, by the way, they're trying to go for their 3rd straight state championship too. So that's another thing, and then 2 straight with Walker. So let's look at the other side of the bracket. Number 6, Vanderbilt Catholic. They upset Loyola Prep. So congratulations to Coach Minton on that win, 31-24. I think we're both wrong on that one. And then Vanderbilt Catholic has their toughest task yet. We talk about E.D. White's toughest task with St. Thomas More. Well, Vanderbilt Catholic has a very tough task against U High. They defeated De La Salle. I thought that was really a statement win, being De La Salle like that, 29-7. U High, will this be a letdown? Because I know that was a huge game, marquee matchup between De La Salle. Even though U High is one more game to go to the state championship game, did they get any sort of task here with Vanderbilt Catholic? I know that they've had a really good season considering the hurricanes and everything that's going on. They're trying to get back to the state championship. U High is for the first time in 3 seasons. And Vanderbilt, they're trying to get back to the state championship. It's been quite a while for them since 1977. So U High, will they continue to go back to the state championship? This has been their best season in a while, in a couple years, since that loaded all-star team they had a couple years ago. Or will Vanderbilt Catholic, pull off the impossible and defeat U High?
I think U High is going to win this game, but I think Tommy Minton's done a great job with Vandy Catholic. I saw him play in the Jamboree, first game of the season, and I was super impressed with Vandy Catholic. They're very young. They're big. They got a great young running back in Jalen Coleman, who's going to be special when he's done. He's only a freshman. They've got great receivers, Jace. They average 290 on the O-line. Some of the big guys they have. Alex Hernandez goes 330 pounds on the O-line, 6'4". Carson Duron, 280, 6'3". Landon Thibodeau, 6'2", 285. These are big guys. And then they got Alex Castile at receiver, who's a very good player. He's a underclassman, along with Diego Archila, who's a great skill player for them. I think it'll be a good game, but Lab beat the toughest team they're going to face from here on out, and that was De La Salle. That was a great win for them. Really feel for De La Salle and their team because they've been so close for 4 years in a row trying to win a state title. But U High, they're one of the best teams in the state, if you just say team. And I think Blake Abney, the quarterback, has really done a phenomenal job. Not many people mention him. Mm-hmm. He's 5'10", 160 pounds, soaking wet. He's a junior. He manages his team and does a phenomenal job for U High. That team's loaded with talent, but if it wasn't for Blake Abney, U High would not be in this position. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He throws the ball 8 to 10 yards as good as anybody, and that's all you need to do with this team.
Yep.
And the defensive line for U High with Petrie and Nicholas Williams and Jabari Johnson and Dylan Smith on the back end and the Osbury brothers, it's the best defense in this classification.
Yeah, he's got the keys to the Cadillac. They just tell him, don't crash it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you can do. That's the only thing you can't do, but you got the keys to the Cadillac.
I'm going U High defense against Walker Howard in the end. So that's how I've got it. And like I said, Tommy Minton's done a great job at Vandy Catholic. This is one of their best teams in a long time.
Yeah, that pays dividends. St. Thomas More, De La Salle, those are your last state championship winners in this bracket they play. And you talk about De La Salle, just can't seem to get over the hump when they're playing U High and playing St. Thomas More. Just those two teams, it has been difficult. So let's see that happens. That's your semifinal matchups in Division 2. When we come back, this is our last commercial break. We'll wrap it up with Division 1. Private side of Class 5A should be a good one. We'll talk more about when we come back on the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Come and visit the majestic mansion in the marsh, Gros Savon, Waterfowl, and Wildlife Lodge. Gros Savon is the true sportsman's paradise. Gros Savon Lodge has everything for you from fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco-tours. Located south of Lake Charles. Call 337-598-2357 or visit www.grosavon.com for more information and schedule your trip to the majestic mansion in the marsh, Gros Savon, Waterfowl, and Wildlife Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise today.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. I am your host, Jace LeJeune. Lee, we got one more bracket left to go to in Division 1, which is Catholic High and St. Paul's. It was a tough win for Catholic against St. Aug, 42-35. Mentioned really briefly, and then and really St. Paul's, in order to get here, they had to kick a really special teams made a difference against Scotlandville, 20-17. That sets up Catholic High and St. Paul's in the semifinals. It was a really good win for St. Paul's against probably a more athletic team in Scotlandville, but Catholic High was a tough start for them last week, but all the talent that they have, they found a way to defeat St. Aug. Now it sets up Catholic High and St. Paul's. Game will be played at Catholic High. I know Catholic High is being really, from last year, with everything going on, I know they have a chip on their shoulder for Catholic High to go back to the state championship.
I don't think anybody's giving St. Paul's a chance to win this. And I'm one that's picking Catholic High. I picked them to win the state championship, and I'm picking them against Jesuit. But St. Paul's has a senior quarterback in Grant Billison. They got senior receivers in Nathan Vitale and also Brody Rena. Danny Sears, the coach's son's a senior fullback linebacker. St. Paul's probably looks at this like nobody's giving us a chance. Let's go out there and play the game of our life, because they're blown off the field early in the year against Zachary. St. Paul's was, and St. Paul's just had a lot of young guys that had to play a lot, and they've become better. Catholic High is like playing an NFL team, Jace. Now, there is an injury for Catholic High, and I don't know if he's coming back this week, but number 3, the senior, a slot receiver running back, might not play
Trey
this
Benson.
week. Trey Benson may or may not play. We'll see what happens there, and that's a big loss for them. But they'll just insert another guy, Barry Remo. Will probably get that spot, who's another phenomenal running back / slot receiver. And that's what they did last year. Remember, they had some running backs get hurt for Catholic, and Nicholas came in and played for the first time, and they kept it going. So I just think Catholic, if they just pound the ball and don't turn the ball over, this game will be like 21-0 or 28-7.
Sure.
And then also Wesley Woodward comes back from his injury. Him and Walker Howard are unbelievable coming back after a month from injuries. But getting Wesley back on the D-line is a big deal for Catholic High.
Yeah, I agree, and I think just too much talent for Catholic. Really good season for St. Paul's, and really, I thought Scotlandville was going to win last week against St. Paul's, but great win on the road last week for them, and they move on to the semis. Have that chance against Catholic, but I think Catholic's just too much. I think they are the best team in the state, pound for pound. So I gotta give it to Catholic High.
And it's not even fair, maybe, because they're just too talented. If these kids just come out and play the way you're not going to beat them. And Daniel Beals, a sophomore quarterback that plays like a college freshman.
Yeah.
Okay. Shelton Sampson doesn't have to do too much, and he's phenomenal at receiver. They don't even have to throw it to him a lot. There's so much talent. And we interviewed Daniel Harden, the other receiver. Man, he would be a 50-catch guy at another school, and he might catch, 20 passes this year, maybe? I just think that Daniel Beal is like a senior here, and he's already been here before. I don't see him missing a lick leading this team to another win.
And then their last matchup, and this is a matchup that we've been talking about since the very beginning that could potentially happen. That's Brother Martin against Jesuit. I know you got Bird wrong on that one. I got Brother Martin right, 45-14. And then talk about Jesuit and John Curtis. An extra point made a difference, 14-13 over John Curtis. So that sets up Jesuit and Brother Martin. Catholic League teams going at it. Remember the last time both these two teams played earlier this year, and Brother Martin won 21-14. Sets up another classic rematch against two really good teams in the Catholic League. I can really see this game going either way. Who do you have with the slight edge in this rematch between both these Catholic League schools?
These teams do not like each other. They know each other. And I don't mean that personally. They're amped for this game. This is two defenses that are phenomenal. And the reason that Jesuit's in this position and Brother Martin's in this position is because of their defense. Brother Martin, Mamahat's a great quarterback, but around him, everybody's young this year. Jesuit has a better offense this year, and they have a big O-line. But Jesuit's D-line, Jace, and linebacking core is at another level. And I've been talking about it all year long at Jesuit. They can rotate 8 to 10 guys in at linebacker and D-line and not miss a beat, and they're all over 6'1". They all weigh 210 to about 260, 270. And Brother Martin's the same way. Their defense is very stiff at linebacker, and I mean that when I mean stiff, you don't get anywhere. Let me mention some guys. Antone Brown, a linebacker, he hits you like a wall moving at you, and it's unbelievable the talent. Jerron Manning, Corey Lambert, Jamal Holmes, Emil Garcia, Jordan Thomas is their young running back on offense. Austin Roberts, you don't want to get hit by this guy, safety for Brother Martin. And then on the other side, Jesuits defense, Dennis Darty, Christian Jackson, Dominique, I don't even know how to spell it. Dominique LaGuardia, something. He's a linebacker. Braden Helm comes off the bench at DN. Andrew Besh, a defensive end with 14, 15 sacks. Joseph Barnett, a senior defensive tackle. I mean, it's Nicholas Foley is one of the best hitters in the state at safety, number 23, along with Will Graham, another great safety for them. And here's the kicker. They won by a point last week. They might win by another point this week, Jesuit.
Okay.
Their kicker is Aiden Corbello. And if that name sounds familiar, his daddy, John Corbello, went to St. Thomas More and kicked for LSU. I watched him play in high school. This is John Corbello's son, former LSU starting kicker's son, and he's really good. So it might come down to Aiden Corbello, Jace, making another one. So
could be.
These two teams, it's like Ole Miss, Mississippi State playing. Throw the records out, it's going to be a war. I just think Jesuit has too much defense. Mama Hat would have to have the game of his life, and he's capable. But I'm picking Jesuit to play Catholic.
I think I'm going to go with Brother Morton here just because of Mama Hat and just being there for so long. I think he's going to have that type of, 4K type of run here and go to the state championship. And he's kind of a similar player like 4K, just great high school player. And he has a chance to cap off his incredible career with a game in the state championship game. These are two great quarterbacks going at it with Mammoth Hat and Larivier. So if you like good quarterback play, you got really good defenses going at it. This is really, both teams are really evenly matched if you look at it. But I have Brother Martin being the slight favorite. I think it's going to be like a 3-point ball game or so. As touchdown game. It's going to go either way. I have Brother Martin with a slight edge, and that will set up a rematch if it happens between Catholic High and the state championship because they played in the semis last year. So, Lee, we did it. We did it under 2 hours, like last time.
We'll see. We did it. We did it under 2.5 hours.
Yeah, right. Yeah, under 2 because it was 2.5 hours last time. So it's really tough to really wrap this all in under a 2 hour period, but we did it. And I'm really excited for this weekend. We got Thanksgiving football on Thursday, and then Friday you have high school playoff action, and I'm excited for it. There are a lot of great games to watch out for this weekend. Take your pick, Lee. I don't know what game you're going to be going to, but take your pick of which game you can really want to go to this week.
I might be going to Catholic High locally. Okay. I've been staying local. My mom having cancer.
Right.
Not traveling as much. I've been watching film on teams all over the state, but I'm probably going to go to the Catholic game locally.
Okay.
And I haven't been to any of their games this year. I've watched a lot of their games and stuff, but I just want to say to all the parents out there, I know, again, this is going to be an emotional weekend with not only Thanksgiving for mom and dads, but, again, this could be your final game. It could be, but it's almost over. And I think it's going to be phenomenal, fun times. There's going to be a lot of tailgating. There's going to be a lot of parents that get together and put their little tent up.
Yep.
Whether they barbecue or do pastelaria or whatever it is, it's going to be a phenomenal weekend. And I can't wait. And Saturday you have A&M LSU.
Yeah, Saturday. You got a whole day of college football action. You have Ohio State and Michigan, the big game.
All the Mississippi
all the
State,
rivalry games.
Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn.
Right. Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Oregon State. We can go on and on. So, but it's a phenomenal week. And I'm going to try not to eat too much so I don't have to join a gym.
Right.
And so I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving out there, by the way.
Definitely.
And safe travels, especially our North Louisiana and South Louisiana people that are going vice versa.
Out of the state,
Be careful on those
Thanksgiving
streets.
trips.
And I hope everybody, again, has a wonderful, phenomenal Christmas. I don't want to say Christmas.
But it's coming up. It's coming up short.
Phenomenal Turkey Day, Thanksgiving.
Yep. I agree. I hope everybody enjoys their happy Thanksgiving week. Hope you all enjoyed the show. We'll make sure to come back next week. And next week, we're going to be less games to talk about. We will either be talking about semifinal games or we're talking about the state championship games next week. So, Lee, thanks for your time as always.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Jace LeJeune signing off here. You just watched the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen. Make sure to tune in our audio version the day after Thanksgiving on Friday. And then also make sure to check back with us, too, next week as we continue to get updated on these playoffs of high school football. Thanks for watching the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen, and have yourself a happy Thanksgiving.
The Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen's Louisiana High School Football Playoff Prediction Show is presented by Medine's Collision Center. Take control, choose Medine's. Gros Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Treads and Care Tire Company, the tires you need, the service you want. And Harvey Autos, the name you have trusted for years.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.